Good morning. Hello. One moment. Hey, Thomas. Hey, everybody. Mary from Country Chic Paint. Just going to give everybody a couple seconds to get onto the YouTube Live today. If you were here yesterday, you might be surprised. I've added a few things since yesterday. This was a stencil in dark roast. I'm going to do something to the top too. Just going to make sure everything is set up for the video. How's everyone doing? Let me know in the comments. Let me know where you're coming from. Say hello to Thomas before he walks away. Okay, so just going to review what I did yesterday. This color is Soiree, not Soiree. It's a French word for fancy party. This is a really nice light mushroom taupe. It's kind of a very light beige. We also have Pop the Bubbly, which is even lighter. Did this stencil in dark roast, a really nice neutral coffee bean brown. And then today I want to use our Smoky Quartz glaze all over the whole thing to antique it up, give it this kind of farmhouse feel. It was just a simple wooden pedestal table. I'm not sure if you saw the before pictures, but it had a faux inlay on the top with some gold trim on it, very dated. So we're gonna just change the whole look today. All right. So I did do a very fine sand with 220 grit, if anyone's wondering about just making a smoother finish. Just a quick pass over with 220 grit over the whole thing will really soften these layers for you. You will have minimal brush marks. It's very smooth to the touch, a little different from the natural matte feel when the paint dries. So I did that, dusted it off, wiped it off. I did try to apply a stencil on the top last night. Just I used half of this, just the triangle parts, and I was going to be clever and do parts of it up here, but I didn't like it, so I painted over it, realized that the stencil left kind of an impression still, so I used that 220 grit, sanded it back, and now it's nice and smooth and clean again, and I'm going to try again today in the video. Alright, apologies, 1 second here. Okay, so if you are doing stencils yourself, one thing that you can use is a little makeup pouncer. I got this from the dollar store, 100 different shapes and sizes. Make sure you get something that either has a little bubble or a curve to it or a nice flat edge. We also offer the palm size painting sponge, which is really good for a larger piece or just covering the whole thing. Spindles like this, I would use the sponge for. You can use this for primer, paint, and the water-based sealants we offer. Really great. Use them for every project. This one has been used quite a few times already. Just rinse out between uses. Don't let the paint dry on that. And this only took about 2 coats of Soiree and maybe a touch up in areas that I missed. And when I sanded back with the 220 grit, any unwanted texture or shallower spots were more apparent, so I touched those up. Nice clean finish. I want to just add a stencil to the top before I glaze all over. Hopefully it will give me some time to dry. So when I do get to it with the glaze, it won't wipe off. When you do a glaze, make sure your under layers have had a couple of hours to dry. You don't want to apply a wet coating and then accidentally bring up anything else underneath. So just give it some time. All right, oh, Tammy's in today. Thanks for watching. Let me know where you guys are coming from. I'm always curious. With most of the videos, we do a giveaway or a coupon. Today is a giveaway. It's just a comment to win. You get $50 off our website, countrychicpaint.com or .ca. All you have to do is comment to win below in this video. Let me know what you're working on. If you've ever used the color Soiree, I'd love to know. That can be your answer. Or just shoot me a hey. So I'm going to get started. I think I'm going to do just the edge. I want to capture just the corners of the fake inlay, and I will move this a little closer so people can see what I'm working on. Sorry for that noise. So that is the top. Has a bit of an indent, so when I go to glaze, that's going to settle really nicely into those grooves and really make it pop. I'm going to purposely leave a lot of glaze on the outside so it has that vintage effect. I'm going to work on my tippy toes here, and hopefully you can still see what we're working on. I'm going to use part of it. I don't really like to cut up my stencils. This was just a cheap one from the dollar store though. It helps to have tape to just work it down, but I'm going all the way around, so I don't want to waste time with all the tape. And if you accidentally stencil outside of your lines, don't worry. You can easily just touch it up with the under layer of paint. I have to do that often. I'm kind of messy coloring inside the lines. That's why it helps to have a tinier pouncer sponge as opposed to the palm size if you're doing just part of the stencil and not the whole thing. Thanks. Hey Hillary, thanks for watching. Hope you're doing good. We're gonna go all the way around, and I don't actually measure anything out. For these, that actually lined up perfectly for the bottom, but I did run out of space on one, so I kind of just slowly spaced them out when I was running out of room and realized that I wouldn't have perfect triangles matching up. So luckily that worked out. I want to keep this pretty flush to the edge. Make it look like it came from one stencil instead of a whole bunch of copies. There we go. If you have IOD transfers or Prima Design or anything like that, you can certainly use those. I haven't played too much around with those. I like just the stencils and paint trick. I get a lot of creativity that way. Gonna try and keep using the same wet one. Oops. If you're worried about bleed through on stencils, some people find the trick is to lay the stencil down, paint the light color first over top, let that dry, and then go in with your actual stencil color on top without moving the stencil. That saves it from bleeding through and you get a really nice crisp line. But for the purpose of this video, I am just going for a nice rustic effect. Oops, you already got outside the line there. I am going to wipe that up and paint over it when it's dry. And make sure you just keep the bottom of your stencil clean. Oops, need some more paint. So I just want a little bit on there. I do dab it out on a piece of cardboard so I have just the bare amount of paint on there. You don't want to saturate the sponge with it or the stencil because that does lead to a blotchier stencil. Alright, that's it so far. Coming along. I'm going to twirl the table a bit. Keep commenting if you want to win $50. Some nice shopping money. Maybe set yourself up with some new painting supplies. Lots to do this summer. At least I have lots to do. Can't wait. Comment to win. And just in case you were curious, we will announce the winner in about 24 hours time after this. And we will let them know in the comments below. So make sure you follow up right here on the video. Making quick work of that. I'm gonna try and not knock over my water dish. I find dark roast is a really good color to have if you collect a lot of neutrals. This works as a great base coat if anybody is doing distressing and maybe they're working with wood that isn't very pretty and they want a nice chocolate tone. Paint your piece in dark roast and then paint your piece in the color you like and distress it back and you will have a really nice faux wood kind of finish. Or we also have canapé, which is a really nice warm chocolate milkshake color as opposed to coffee. Hope those help for a visual. Gotta make sure this is lined up. Oh, dabbed outside the lines again. Oh, it's missing half the design. No. Lay that back down real carefully. There we go. I'm good with that. Not too much paint, just enough. And if you purposely leave gaps or use even just very little, you get a really nice faded look. And you can also do that if you wanted to just lightly distress the stencil. That works too, so it's not so crisp. All right. I'm just gonna clean off the stencil. It's getting a bit dirty. Ooh, there is a gob of paint I don't want right there. It's drying pretty quickly. I think by the time I'm ready to glaze the top, it will be fine to do so right here in the video. I'm going to knock this over. Thomas, will you share that? Thank you. Don't drink it. Don't drink it. I asked you. Please don't drink it. That happens so many times. Now he's upset. I took it from him. Okay. Anybody else work with their furry friends? Oh, thank you so much, Cindy. Glad you like the piece so far. Here, just wait till you see the glaze. That's really gonna take on the whole look. It's a very nice, crisp look right now. I thought about distressing it, but I want to see what it looks like glazed before I make any other rustifications. As I was putting dark roast on last night, I thought maybe doing something with less contrast would be nice. Even using Pop the Bubbly, which is slightly lighter, give it almost like a pseudo bow inlay sort of look. That would be kind of neat. If I ever run across a second table like this, I might do the same color but with a lighter stencil. Or white would be nice. There's a lot of really cool ways you can incorporate neutral colors but still have fun prints and designs. Boho doesn't always mean crazy bold bright colors, though it certainly helps. Definitely got some touch-ups to do with the lighter color here, making a mess. But it's very pigmented paint, so I don't ever really have to go over a second time, which is definitely nice. Sometimes when you're working with acrylics or something else, you're going over a few times and you get like a 3D effect with your stencils. So now we have come to the point that happened down there where these won't quite connect, but I don't think anyone will notice because it's pretty close. If I wanted to, I could repaint those two, spread them out a bit, and then make this blend a little easier, but it's already so close, I think it will be fine. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to take a little artist brush and Soiree and touch up some of those lighter areas. Oop, am I strong enough to open the jar? Let me know what you guys think of the top. Oh, could I explain the $50 requirements? Just got on. Oh, it's just a comment to win. All you have to do is just let me know what you're working on, and if you've ever used Soiree. In 24 hours time, we will draw a winner from the comments and contact them right here on the video. And that gives you $50, a $50 coupon to shop on our website. Alright, just need the little bit of paint on the lid here to do these touch-ups real quick. We do offer a really great set of artist brushes on the website. I use them for anything like stenciling. If you don't have a little makeup pouncer or anything like that, or you prefer to use a brush, you definitely could. These would do the trick. They work for tiny spaces or tiny details, or even if you prefer to hand paint your flowers or anything like that. Try not to cover up the actual stencil. What happened here? So just a little one coat touch up on the drips and any smudges from my stencil. I was going pretty quick with it. Alright, I like that. Okay, so I think it's time to start glazing. So I'm going to be using Smoky Quartz. That's our chocolate brown glaze. We have a couple of other tints. We have a black one, graphite, tiger's eye, which is a reddy brown, shimmer, sparkle, a couple other effect ones. Limestone is really good. It's white. It gives you that whitewash bleached effect. A lot of folks use it on table legs, anything like that. It looks gorgeous if you strip the wood and then just apply a little glaze. Thanks, Tammy. Yeah, it's really handy. I just, every time I go to Walmart or the dollar store, I just poke through their artist section and just take a look. You never know. Some of these are really handy and they only cost me $1. I use this one a lot. It's got like 16 projects worth of metallic cream on it, so it's really good. All right, glaze time. So for your paint, again, make sure you give it plenty of time to dry. Rule of thumb is an hour, probably best. More if you're working in a cooler area. Have a dish of water ready and a damp cloth. This one kind of dried out on me. Try not to use anything too linty. Always use a lint-free cloth if you can. I get mine from Canadian Tire or just hardware stores. These reusable dishcloths work. They're Frank cloths or J cloths. Very handy, no pilling, no lint on my piece. I'm going to use my oval brush to apply the glaze. I've just got a little sample here of Smoky Quartz. A little goes a long way. It won't apply quite like the paint. It is a thinner, more translucent thing. I'm gonna start here. If you're nervous and you don't know what the look will be like, and if you're not sure if you like it, start with a discrete area of the piece, an area that doesn't have a lot of detail that you would have to touch up if you don't like it. This, for me, would be an easy spot if I didn't like it, but hands down, I will be needing Smoky Quartz for this one. So really work it into the grooves for that vintage effect. Grime and dirt settle into the crevices, so if you are not too thorough, you will find that there's some little gaps where there's really fresh looking paint. That wouldn't happen on an antique piece, so just be careful and catch any spots you miss with another coat. Sometimes you might need 2 applications if you want a really dark look, but I am using light color already, so I think the contrast will be nice with just one. Oop, don't knock over your glaze. That would have been funny. I have done that. I've knocked over tons of paint. I've forgotten that lids are open and I go to shake them, shake it all over myself. Great thing is if you're quick, paint can wash off your clothes very easily. But keep in mind it is designed to adhere to textiles after it's cured, so there is a point where you might not get your clothes back the way they were. Wear an apron. So just getting right under the crevices here. There's a little piece of wood that's got some trim on it that I'm trying to cover nicely. And I want to get the underside of it because I painted it. Have not worked with Soiree, just received Darling and Pop the Bubbly. Those are really good colors. I love Darling. That soft pink and then the champagne Pop the Bubbly. So as you can see, I haven't waited at all really. It's had maybe 10 seconds. I want to make sure I catch any of those messy brush marks because I do want a softer look. I'm probably not going to actually apply glaze right over top of everything. For that vintage effect, you want it settling into grooves and crevices, so there's not always a point to applying it everywhere. Just where age would occur. Same thing with kitchen cabinets. You might want to work on just the outside of it instead of right in the middle. And catch any drips. Anything that stays behind, like I'm going really, really lightly with this cloth. I'm just dragging it across, especially with spindles. You don't want to like be really thorough like you're actually cleaning because you'll just be taking a lot of that glaze right back off. There. That is really nice. You'll see in a moment. I'll be changing the angle here. Did I put a top coat on before the glaze? Nope. As I said, just gave it a quick sand and then went live to do the glaze. You can definitely seal when you're done. If you were to put a tough coat on or clear coat onto the paint and then glaze, the glaze might not adhere as well. I did that red coffee table a couple of days ago, I did end up adding a bit more glaze to the bottom because once I put tough coat on, it was shiny, it was really nice, but it wasn't quite as grimy as I wanted it to look, or as old looking. So I did apply a bit of graphite right over tough coat. It did wipe off easier, so I intentionally left quite a bit on, let that dry, sealed again after 24 hours, and it's good. So definitely can do that. I would probably wait 24 hours before sealing with a top coat. I can also finish up with a wax or hemp oil over glaze. They're very versatile. Just don't put glaze on top of a wax. This is a water-based product and waxes are oil-based, so they won't work. All right, back to the glazing. I think I'm going to start on the edge here. So we're going to see what it looks like over the stencils and the outside. So I like to just work in sections. It does dry really quickly. If you're doing a tabletop or anything like that, maybe just try and do one section at a time, one area. Really lightly scrubbing this in a circular motion on the outside because that's going to give it a softer look where it just kind of bleeds into the edge. And like I said, I'm probably not going to apply glaze from here to here because I want that vintage look. And really lightly dragging it along the sides. It's going to work. And glaze will settle over top of your brush marks. So some of the areas I did do a cross hatch to rough it up. And the glaze will kind of capture that and give it a really subtle texture. Just bring out that rustic look. So going around the edges, and I'm only doing about one pass with the 1.5, and really lightly, next to no pressure, I'm just swirling. It's pretty warm in here too in the sunroom, so it's going to dry a little quicker than usual. If you do let it sit too long, it'll tack up on you. Some folks like that look because it does remain, more glaze will stay behind the longer you wait, but it might not blend as easily. So just play with it. It pretty much works the same over our chalk style paints, but if you are working over a satin top coat or anything like that, it will wipe off a little easier. So just something to keep in mind. So that's just some of that. If you can see, we've got a very, very light tint happening. More when it dries. I'll probably be going over the edges a second time. Look at that. Just really nice chocolatey goodness. I'm very loosely connecting these sections because I don't want really sharp lines. That won't lend a very natural effect. So just lightly brushing it into it. Don't go over areas that are in the midst of drying, of course. That's kind of true for any product. You'll get some unwanted texture or you get that tacked up look. So just give it some time, come back to it and touch it up. Going all the way around. And gonna start brushing it off. So I used this glaze on the coffee table. If you guys want to check that out, there was part 1, 2, and 3. It's a red coffee table with a stained top. Used this glaze and graphite glaze to give it an antiqued espresso top, and then applied it all over on the base. So these work great over paint, raw wood. Very versatile. And keep your cloth clean. As you start to do the swirling action, you don't want to accidentally bring product into the center where it stays and remains streaky. So that's where that bowl comes in handy. Is a wax top coat appropriate for kitchen piece or just lower traffic pieces? Wax is better for a lower traffic piece. I wouldn't use it on kitchen cabinets because it can collect debris and grease and might be harder to wipe away as that kind of just embeds into a wax. Our waxes are traditional kind of harder, firmer waxes. Great for buffing onto a piece just like this, but probably not tabletops or kitchen cabinets, no. Great for anything else though. With kitchen cabinets, you really want that that top coat, like tough coat, nice satin top that resists that grease and makes it very easy to clean. Wax can be not so easy to clean, and it does wear with time as well, so you'll be cleaning often and then there won't be a wax finish, so you might have to reapply. But I do use wax on quite a few pieces, but always something like a buffet or a nightstand, just probably not the high traffic. Okay, so I'm gonna just move this back a bit so you guys can see the base, because we're gonna work on the pedestal bottom now. Whoops, way too down. Take a look at that gradient that I've created so far. Gotta give it some time to dry before I go after it again. But, sorry, just trying to get close enough that you might be able to see the difference between the fresh paint. This will be a much more contrast than the red over black that I showed you earlier in another video. Getting close, apologies. Need the brush and cloth. So this is the nice bare chalk finish, very classic look, very clean. Let's dirty it up. Just gonna brush it on. You could sponge it on as it's easier to work with spindles, but I can push this into the grooves really nicely. I do want to go all the way around because I don't want that half meeting product in the middle look. Gotta work a little quickly too. Really working it into areas. So definitely don't leave it, or you will find that it dries streaky and it might be tacky for a couple of days. That's because it doesn't operate quite like paint. Gonna bring some of that product down into here because you really want those grooves to pop. All right, so that's the bottom so far, and I'm gonna wipe it away. And glaze will kind of go wherever your wipes are. So if I'm not too careful, or if I let the product collect at the end of the cloth, it will kind of show that on the piece. So just try and keep it clean and the edges smooth. Buff more in the center, purposely leave more behind in the crevices. That always works. And this is just one coat, and already it's added a couple years of grime. And if you find that your paint is coming up, that could be because the coats weren't, you needed another coat, or you should have let it dry, or there could be an adherence issue where maybe it didn't adhere properly to the actual surface. I did just work up the paint just a little bit, but I do know this is an area where I might not have collected a lot of paint in the first place. So I just want to, if you can see right there, right there, tiny little spot where I overworked. All I have to do to fix that is wait for it to dry, touch it up with a bit of Soiree, and then go over it again with Smoky Quartz. It's going to be just fine. If you find that's happening all over your piece, and you can just do this, and it's coming right off, that's an adherence issue, and you need to take a look at the prep guide, because that could be something to do with the actual piece. Maybe it needed some sanding, more sanding. Sometimes the scuff sand doesn't always work because it's just taking a little bit of that gloss, but not enough of it off. So a little scratch test always helps for moving forward. Oops. And I want it lighter where it naturally would have been cleaned a lot over time. So you wouldn't be cleaning as thoroughly in the crevices, but you would probably right here. So this will always be probably a little lighter than that, just naturally. And that's just a little example. It's very light in the camera, but it's got a nice little brush marked effect here for me. A second coat will definitely make it pop. I think I would do a second coat just for a more dramatic look maybe. And this was a nearly brand new jar, and I've barely dipped into it. Still got quite a bit, say about 2/3. Glaze won't cover there's more in the jar here, I guess, than in a sample of paint, which covers about 15 square feet. This will cover just a little bit more because it is translucent, but it does depend on how you're using it. So, can't always be accurate with the estimations. But a sample is really good if you're doing a couple of medium-sized projects or just need a little antiquing. All right, all the way around. And catch that nice trim underneath. And if you do find that anything dried in a way you don't like, you can always just paint right over it. Nice and easy. Oh, if you paint the undersides, will you glaze the underside of the table as well? If I had painted underneath, I didn't, just because this is my piece and I'm not too concerned about it. I'll never look under there. Your call if you want to do that for your own. If you made the effort to paint underneath, it may be glaze underneath. It would take no time at all to just put some glaze underneath there, Tammy. And then, oh, sorry, what's the second color? Well, that would be the colors I'm working with today. Dark Roast and Soiree. Nice coffee bean brown and a nice, very light beige neutral, almost like a mushroom. Thank you, Grandma's Gone Crafty. Glad you're liking this as inspiration. It's a very nice, classic combination of a light neutral and some brown glaze. You could get a similar look with wax as well. If anyone's curious, and if you have wax at home wondering if you could do this, you definitely can. It would apply, it would look very similar, but it might not accentuate those details quite like that. In like a brushy kind of way, it'll be a smoother, more subtle effect. And again, it all depends on how much you leave behind. So when you apply it, you do have to buff the excess. If you leave more behind, you'll have a more dramatic look. Buff a lot away, you might find you do 2 coats, or you just wanted a little look. So that's just the side there. Try not to knock this over as we spin it around. Whoops, right off the table. There we go, so that's the back end. It's a little messy, but I'm gonna work real quick and just try and work some of that with a damp cloth. It's working. So I'm just softening the edges from my application from 5 minutes ago because they started to tack up. There we go. So now I can just go ahead and apply some more, keep going. The oval does collect quite a bit of product, so I barely have to dip in. This will cover probably all of this too. But you want to work in sections, otherwise it dries up. Right in there, that's a spot that would look weird if it wasn't covered in glaze. Yeah, see, that's got to be worked in a bit. I think I will end up distressing this. I was waiting to see what the glaze looked like, and I do like it, but maybe it would be nicer with some wood showing through. So the cloth is starting to get a bit dirty on me, and it's not taking it away as much. Clean cloth. Water's starting to get dirty though. That's okay. If it's too damp, you will remove a lot more glaze, so just make sure it's not dripping. Really squeeze it out before you start wiping your glaze. These little factors will make a difference in the long run. Takes a bit of working with to get the hang of it, but probably just once or twice. Alright, so that's a little rustic look. I'm going to go on to the top because it's time and it dried nice and quick. So let's get close to the top here. and glaze. Oh, have I ever used a colored wax over glaze to accentuate with antiquing? Yes, I have actually. I did use black wax with Smoky Quartz. I wanted a really soft, dark effect, but I also wanted that brush streaky look that sometimes glaze gives me. Sorry, tongue twister there. So yes, you can definitely interchangeable, use them both. But again, make sure you do your glaze layers first, then go in with wax. You can't reverse those. Got another question from Tonya. Does this paint contain a top coat? It has top coat and priming qualities built into it, but some pieces of course need some extra durability, like kitchen tables, cabinets and outdoor furniture. We offer two. They dry to satin top coats. One's pretty easy to use and the other one has a bit of a learning curve, but is our most durable and I highly recommend it. And that was also covered in yesterday, or the day before's project, the coffee table. So I've got my glaze on the brush. This was the beginning of the video. It's had some time to dry. Nice and good. I'm just gonna really carefully, because I don't want to work up the dark roast we just applied, not 20 minutes before. Work slowly. I don't want to let it sit for too long because that will soak the dark roast up. And of course in sections, messy sections. Purposely do something like that. Don't have a very sharp edge. And wipe it back. If you are trying out the glaze and you're finding that it's wiping away on you on the edges and you wanted something where the edges are darker, try dry brushing, a little bit of a dark brown like dark roast. Dry brushing is just using the end of a brush. Helps to use something like find a spot in the camera, helps to find something like our short handle brush or just like a used bristle brush, chippy brush, anything with a rough edge. All you do is take a little bit of paint and you're just lightly brushing it against the sides or lightly across the top. That will create that nice rustic effect as well. That's just with paint. So that's an option. We have a tutorial on dry brushing if you want more details on that. Good examples too. Oh, good. Okay, so there was some kind of like impressions as well, little tiny notches in the faux inlay that I painted over, and the glaze is settling into them, so I'm getting some extra texture that is still, that's a thing, extra texture. It's showing up nicely. I'm not sure if you can tell, but it's kind of, yeah, right there, working into the grooves. Love that little surprise. Okay, gonna keep working around the edge. I haven't decided if I'm gonna add a stencil to the center. I was planning on just putting a bunch of paint on top of this because it's like a perfect little display, so maybe not. If anybody is a retailer of ours and they're watching, find yourself a pedestal tiered table like this. Very handy for a shop. Oh, make sure we work that glaze, no harsh edges. Nice and soft. And I'm not taking off any of the dark roast. This dried really nicely. Good. Don't forget to keep commenting if you're watching. We are doing the $50 giveaway at the end of this. Comment to win below in this video. Let me know what you're working on. If you've ever used the color Soiree, and you can win $50 off of our website. We'll email the lucky winner, or sorry, contact the lucky winner right there in the comments. You have 24 hours. Go. And just gonna finish up the one side here that I missed. It's hard to tell. I'm too short to see the glare, how it's blending in the center, but I think it's going well. I'll tilt it so you can see as well. So again, just make those sections meet up and just be careful that you don't overwork the product. If it's to the point where it's too dry for you to work with, let that dry, sand any unwanted texture off, touch up your paints, and then you can glaze again. It sounds like a bit of work, but it actually isn't. It maybe takes 10 minutes of just a little extra time. Very rarely happens, but it is worth it in the long run. Those little errors can be noticed after a while. All right, I just need to get that excess off the side. Hopefully it's not too dark. Let me know what you guys think. I'll pan out so you can see the broader effect in a moment. I think that's good. We've glazed the whole thing. Oops, we missed a whole spot. I missed a whole spot. You're just watching. Sorry. Can't blame you. There we go. Okay, so throw this around. There are some areas that I'm going to want to touch up. I'll show you here. This little spot, this is where I just let the glaze sit too long. So I'm just going to probably, if I can, use a damp cloth to bring it back up. And if not, I'll just touch it up with some paint and then go over it with glaze again. But that's glaze settling into the details. Apologies, the dirty glaze hands. It's got that nice vintage look. And that's it so far. So I think I will leave it for today. Going to let it dry, maybe touch up the glaze one more time, and then I will finish this off with natural wax. That's our very nice, clear, 100% natural wax. I used up my old one, so I have a brand new tin. This is really great. Use it on everything. And that is, I think, it for today. I'm gonna just leave you guys here with this. This is the end of the video. We've got a nice finished result with dark roast and soiree. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe if you'd like to see some more videos. We always put them out next week. The week after that, gonna keep going. Thanks everybody for watching. Subscribe, and if you have any questions at all, please put them in the comments. I do read them and I'd be happy to answer. Have a great day. Happy painting.